It is, what is today? May the 6th. It's time for an episode of training here in our group, Realtors Road to Success. Purpose of this group, I've been in real estate, gosh, forever, since 1992. Been a lender for 6 years. For you guys that don't know me, my name's Tricia Turner. Got my broker's license a little over 4 years ago, about 4.5 years ago. Opened my own independent brokerage, and then switched that over to or switched myself over to an EXP branch office in October of 2018. And when I opened my own office, it became very apparent to me that real estate agents aren't trained. I, of course, have always been just one of those people that's just a hustler. I'm always going to be seeking to do more and be more, and I want to live a great and abundant life. And so, my goal many years ago was to make $100,000, and then it grew from there. And once I did that, I was like, okay, let's just double, and then let's double, and let's double. And so I always just believe in doubling everything. And so my thoughts are, when I had my own company open, I'm sorry, I'm switching this around. When I had my own company open, just training the agents was always the biggest thing, because I would see how their production was at the end of the year. And it's like, gosh, you guys can do so much more. How are you paying your bills, making that money? You can do and be everything that possibly you can be. And when I was going through real estate school in, 1992, Lloyd Hampton was my instructor, and he used to always drill into us, the name of the game is listings. You have to get listings. Listings is like having money in the bank. When you have listings, you basically have people that are doing the work for you to help sell your listing, and listings brings more leads. And I have always heard that, and he drilled into us, your number one thing when you represent a seller is to be selling their home for the most amount of time and the least, not the most amount of money in the least amount of time is always your goal. And so that's just drilled into me. And so all throughout my career, it has always been the big thing. Let's make sure that we get the sellers the most amount of money. It's not always in the least amount of time, but we definitely need to get them the most amount of money. Now, when you're going to a listing presentation or when you're talking to sellers, you have to know what their goals are before you can put some kind of a plan in place or come up with anything. But when I first started in my real estate career, I didn't want to work with sellers. In fact, I didn't work with sellers for probably 5 years. I would only work with buyers. I only wanted to show property. I would just be out. I loved showing property. I loved working with buyers. They're usually nicer, and it's usually a smoother transaction. It's usually faster money because, of course, once you acquire a buyer as a client and you go out looking at properties, you may find something your first time out. You may make an offer on something your first time out, negotiate it, get under contract, and get to a closing table in 45 days. That is possible. Now, the market that we're in today, it's super hard, and the market's insane. This too shall pass. We'll get back to our balanced normal market. It may be a year from now, but we'll get back there. And so I never wanted to work with sellers. And it wasn't until I became a broker that I was like, well, now I kind of have to just focus on sellers because I can't be out running around with buyers all the time. I got to be in the office helping the agents and running the business. And so that's when the shift went for me. But I really didn't want to do it. It was because I needed to do it. And I'm glad that I did. I'm glad I had to force myself to do it because it is a better use of your time. It's a high leveraged activity, but you have to be skilled because you're dealing with people's biggest investment, one of their biggest investments in their life. If you misguide them, that's just so unethical and so shame on you kind of things. And if you don't know how to run value, if you don't know how to run value on a property, you can't possibly represent a seller well because you're either overpricing it and then it won't sell, it will fail to sell, which in that case then leaves the seller in a bad situation because then their home has sat on the market and not sold. Then the next time they go around, they're going to have to do a price reduction, but it leaves them looking like their house isn't worthy of that price. And so it's never a good position for a seller when a home has to sit, if the seller especially needs a certain amount of money. And so you always have to be skilled at running property values, knowing how to run the value, knowing what the market is doing, knowing what is projected of the market. So if you know that you have a shift projected coming, like we do right now, we know this is May. We know that the market has been insane since COVID, and it's gotten increasingly harder since COVID. Now, interestingly enough, I read a statistic yesterday. There are more licensed real estate agents in the nation right now than ever, 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 ever in the entire real estate history. Why? I didn't say why in there. Why do I believe? Because of COVID. Because so many people lost their jobs, and so many people became unemployed and lost their industries even during COVID. They were like, okay, well, what am I going to do? What kind of a career can I have? What can I do to pay my bills? Real estate is a fairly easy thing to get licensed at. Basically, you can do it all online. You can take your test and pass the test, and boom, you're a licensed agent. Does that mean you're going to be successful? Probably not. Now, knowing the numbers, there's an 87% failure rate in real estate. So 87% of the, and this was before these crazy numbers, so 87% of real estate agents fail within their first 2 to 5 years. Most of them within the first two. 47% of the real estate agents that are licensed right now have not sold one home since COVID. Not one. Now, this is on a national level, so that's 47%. So, when you know numbers like that, it's super critical that you're skilled and that you're an expert in your field. If you got your real estate license thinking that it was going to be super easy and you're going to sell a bunch of homes every year, you're not. Number one, you need to make sure you are training constantly, practicing constantly, learning constantly. You need to always be learning, and you need to be in learner mode at all times. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I'm constantly learning. I'm probably learning more now than I ever have, and not just about real estate, because I know how to sell real estate and I know how to do listing presentations, but more so about how to just grow a business into an empire. That's what I'm learning now, but I'm always in learning mode. And so I would encourage you, especially if you're new, you need to be learning every single day. You need to engage with people that are successful in real estate, people that are visionaries, people that are innovative, and people that have things down that you want to do. And so for me, a listing presentation is an easy thing. I've been on hundreds of them. I've listed hundreds of homes. I've sold hundreds of homes, so I got it down. But I'm not a good person at showing others how to do it just because I'm a high I. When you do a disc assessment on me, I'm all I, some D, no S and C, none. So it's like structuring things, organizing things, that kind of stuff is super hard for me because I'm not good at it. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. So I don't do it. And so I like when I go on a presentation, I do pretty much all of the talking. I will bring out numbers. I have a whole brochure that we've put together that's absolutely beautiful. I typically don't go over it with my potential sellers because I don't need that visual. I'm a very in your face talkative person. And so the presentation for me, once I hit go, I'm on. And it's like I'm doing not an act, but I'm doing a conversation, I should say. And so I would encourage you, though, to, if you're with a different company, make sure that you have some kind of a brochure put together. It needs to look pretty, it needs to look professional. If it doesn't, you're not going to. You need to dress professionally. Here in my organization, we either are dressed professionally or we're in company shirts and work slacks. And so we always are on our A game, always, because you never get a second chance at a first impression. So when you're dealing with sellers, and I would challenge all of you that are watching this to deal with sellers. Right now, it is super critical that we get listings on the market. You hear listing agents talk about what a great market it is, and this is amazing. I've got 27 offers on my listing. That's not great. It's really not. Now, it's great for the seller, sure, but it's super stressful for the buyers and the buyer's agents. Super stressful. This could probably be the most stressed out industry, or stressed out time in the real estate industry that I've ever seen in my career. In 2014 and 13, we were in a super intense seller's market, but nothing like this. This is, and when I talk to all my friends across the nation, they say the same thing. They've never ever seen a market like this in history. So it's not enjoyable. It's very stressful because when you put a home on the market and you get 20 offers, well, only one's going to make it. So then you have 19 people that thought they were going to get that house, gave it their best, but didn't get it. So then they're out looking again and again and again, and they're getting frustrated. And the agents are getting frustrated, and the agents aren't making any money because they can't get anything into closing. And so it's not fun. So when you know the dynamics of that, what's the solution? Well, here's the solution. You got to get homes on the market. Well, who's controlling that? We are. We are. As real estate agents, we are. You are, me, we are. Why? Because if we stop talking to people and stop encouraging them to get their homes on the market, what's going to happen? We'll have even fewer homes on the market. We have an influx of people coming into Texas. We have an influx of people coming into Houston. The builders, some of them are behind in construction because some of them stopped when COVID hit, like, oh crap, what's going to happen? So then they stopped. And then the cost of lumber has tripled or more. I think it's even more than quadrupled now. It's out of control, which of course has raised home values because new home construction is up. We have no supply, so then resale is up. So everything is up. So when you look at this, it's like, it's insane. People are getting absolutely priced out of their homes. However, what you need to keep in mind in the real estate industry is that there are a lot of homes that are dogs. In a normal market, almost 47% of the homes that go on the market fail to sell nationally. That's a stat, that's a fact. In a normal market, we are not in a normal market. So right now, almost everything that goes on the market will sell. It still needs to be priced right, it still needs to be marketed, but it typically should sell. Even a dog of a property will sell right now. So when you're talking to your past clients, your sphere of influence, anyone that you're talking to, you need to be talking about real estate. If their goal, a homeowner, if their goal is to sell in the next 1 to 2 years, they should probably look at selling right now. Why? Because they can capitalize on the sale of their house. They will make more money right now than they would have made last year, and likely that they will make next year. Here's the thing: once a shift takes place in the market, it happens almost overnight. And when you're pricing your properties to the max and over market value, you sometimes can't catch up with that shift once it starts dipping down. And then you'll see $25,000 price adjustments, $30,000 price adjustments going down. So you have to be really in tune with what's going on. So when I go on a listing presentation, I always explain to them, number one, when I was educated getting my license in real estate, I was told from go, my goal is to get your home sold for the most amount of money in the least amount of time, and that is still my goal. 1000%. I always bring an RPR report. So if you don't know how to use RPR, go back through our training videos. I've done a video on that. And I have the RPR report, but I let them know the RPR report is typically not always accurate. However, some agents are unskilled and inexperienced, and they don't know how to run home values on a manual system or through a CMA method. They only know how to do RPR, and that's just plug in the property address and see what RPR says, and boom, here's your home value. That's not how you do it. Unfortunately, there are agents that do that. And so I explain to sellers when I go into a presentation, I show them what an RPR report looks like. I show them what the RPR report on their home is, and then I let them know if that's anywhere close, of course, to the number I've come up with. And if it's not, if it's lower, I explain to them because it's lower, you're going to see offers come in at this price because that's how some agents function. They function by going off of RPR's report. So don't do that. If that's you and you're doing that, stop. Learn how to run value so that you have RPR, yes, as a tool, but you need to run your own value so that you really know what that property is likely to sell for. What is the competition selling for? What is the competition? What is the market doing? What is it projected to do? You have to know these things. The first thing you do in a listing presentation, for me, it's always about building rapport. It needs to be that for you too. The seller needs to become your friend at that appointment. You need to have built rapport with them over the phone. We go through what we call a seller's questionnaire. I don't have one right here in front of me, but it's a list of about, I think, 25 questions. Don't go through every one of it, and you don't go through it. Okay, what is the size of your house? Is it a three? You don't do that. You work through the form and you internalize the form. Like, I have it memorized, so I know what the questions are that needs to be asked. And as the conversation flows along on the phone, then I'm going through and I'm making my notes on the form so that I can be prepared for the appointment. When I'm face to face with them, I have already established rapport on the phone. Typically, I'm in their face now. And again, it's just strengthening that rapport, making them my friend, finding something in common with them right off the bat. So I usually come in, I have my folder in my hand, my phone, of course, and a pen. And we have a listing brochure that we bring along with our folder and all of our marketing material. And then I've got my research folder. So I've got a folder I'm going to leave with them, and I've got my research folder. Here I use pink or purple folders. Purple is for royalty. Listings bring money, so that's royalty. So, but I also like hot pink, so they're either purple or hot pink. Do as you want, but it just works for me, and I've done it for years. And so when I go in there, I've got my folders in my hand. We start at the entryway, of course, build a little bit of rapport there in the foyer, and then the goal is to get to the kitchen so that I can put my stuff down. Because you want to ask them as they're letting you in, you build like a minute or so rapport in the entryway. then of course it's on now. It's like, okay, let's go ahead and take the tour. Would you mind giving me a tour of the home? And then as you make your way to the kitchen, that's when I usually either set my stuff down. If they have a big bar, I'll set it there, or I'll set it down at the kitchen table, whichever is closer. And I'll say, do you mind if I set my stuff down here? Which of course they don't. And then you take the tour. Now, as you're taking the tour, I've heard some people, some of the people that I collaborate with, they'll actually ask the sellers if they can do the tour on their own and kind of look through their house on their own. I'm not comfortable with that. So I've quite honestly never done that. You got to find what works for you. If I was selling my own home and I wasn't in real estate, and a real estate agent that I'd never met before came into my house and was like, oh, hi, I'm Tricia and I'm here for my appointment, la la la. Would you mind if I go ahead and take a tour of your house by myself? If I was the homeowner, I would be like, yeah, I would mind. I don't like people walking around my house that I don't know. So I've never crossed that bridge. I go with the homeowner. I ask them to give me the tour for a couple of reasons. Number one, when I'm going on a listing presentation, and when you're going on a listing presentation, it's about getting a relationship built with that seller, and that's not done overnight, and it's not done within 5 minutes. So I've heard other top leaders or team leaders or brokers talk about listing presentations and trying to get in and out of there in less than 30 minutes. I don't do that either. My time is valuable, but so is their house, and so is their trust. And for me, that's top of the chain. And so I'm not in a hurry. I block out usually 2 hours for my listing appointments. I usually am in there sometimes 2.5 hours, sometimes 3 hours. It is what it is. We get paid well when we do a good job. And so my time, again, is valuable, but so is their trust. And so as I'm walking through the house, I'm establishing more trust with them. I'm building rapport with them. I want to see, do we have things in common? If I walk through that house by myself, I'm going to like speed walk through that house. I'm not going to take in anything that means something to them. But if I'm walking through that house with them and they're next to me and she talks about the painting that's on the wall that her mom painted and her mom passed away last year, that's an emotional moment. That's something that you want to do. If I'm going into the game room and they have a game that I love, it's building rapport. Holy crap, I love that game. You need to find something as you're taking the tour of the house in common with them, some kind of common ground, something that connects you guys. When people connect, that's when they let their walls down and when they let trust take place. And so I would encourage all of you guys to make sure that that's a priority. Stop looking at the clock. Stop looking at your time like, oh crap, I got to hurry up. Stop. Realize what you're there for. It's to establish a relationship and stop being in a hurry. So I do a tour of the house. I now have established rapport. Once we're done with the tour, and of course I'm complimenting them on how beautiful their home is. If I see things that maybe they might want to address, right, I ask questions. If I see a water stain in the roof or the ceiling, I ask, hey, what happened here? Did you have a water leak? Did you fix it? How long ago did that happen? I'm asking as I'm going through the house and I'm making mental notes. If doors are not staying open and they're closing as we're opening and closing them, I ask, have you ever had your foundation checked? Because I noticed that the doors are opening and closing on their own. Maybe we need to have that done prior to going on the market. I'm building my expertise knowledge. I'm showing them that as I'm going through. And so because they don't think about these things, they're homeowners. They're not in the real estate market. They don't do this for a living. So you have to keep that in mind. You are the expert. You are guiding them. You have to be pointing these things out to them. And so take your time going through each room. You look at the bathrooms, look at the closets, look at those things, and then start encouraging them on what needs to be done. In our company, we have a designer. We have our own staging company as well. And so we have an in-house designer. And so I'm already alluding as I'm walking through the house with them and taking my tour. I'm alluding, our designer will be in touch with you within the next day or so. She'll be coming back with you. She'll spend an hour with you to go through the house and give you an outline of what needs to be done and make it look like a model home. And so I'm constantly, again, building rapport, talking about their house, but defining expert knowledge within myself. So by the time we get done with the tour, they're feeling like, wow, man, she's going to get this house sold. She knows what she's doing. She knows what she's talking about. She's not an idiot. Because the last thing you want is by the time you get done with the tour and back to the kitchen table, the last thing you want is for them to think that you're an idiot. So you have to make yourself, you shouldn't be an idiot, but you have to have established that with them as well. And so the goal is to get back to the kitchen table, and that's when the presentation begins. And so for me, I'm always asking questions. I go back to our phone conversation. How did the phone conversation start? Well, what's the goal? Why do you want to move? You always have to ask that. That's the number one thing to ask is why. Why are you wanting to move right now? and then listen. You need to listen 80% of the time and talk 20% of the time. Now, once I go into the mode and I'm giving the presentation and I'm going over numbers, they pretty much don't get a word in. Not when I'm going over the numbers, because I'm establishing myself. I'm showing them the numbers and I'm explaining. I walk them through. I paint a picture for them. I've already shown them RPR. I've explained RPR. I've explained what we could get when we may get offers that reflect the number that RPR shows. I explain how I came up with my number. I'm painting a picture for them the entire time. Typically, when you get to a listing appointment, you should already know what that seller hopes their home will sell for. You should. If you've done things correctly and you've built rapport and you've been on the phone with them, you will know. 99% of the time, I know before I ever get there what they hope their home will sell for. Why? Because it's the questions that I ask. It's the questions that I ask in our interview process. So when I'm on the phone with them, I'm going through that. Why are you wanting to move? What is the goal? Are you moving out of the area? Those kinds of questions. And then after you've asked a little bit about their house, what's your favorite feature about your house? That's a key question you need to ask. Another key question that I always ask is, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being totally updated, where would you rate your home? Well, I'm going to tell you, most sellers are going to give their home like an 8 or a 9. So right off the bat, you need to be prepared that they think their home is a castle. So when you get there and you open the door, if it's like a total crap hole and smells and everything, you need to realize and remember, because you write it down, what did they rate it at? So they think this is amazing. So you don't start talking about things like, you just gauge each conversation based on the first interview that you did. And then always, there's a line on our questionnaire that asks them, um, what do you think your home is worth? It words it something like that. And then how did you come up with that? And people usually, if you word it in that manner, they usually don't like to answer it, because you'll get some of them that they'll come back and they'll be like, well, that's what I'm talking to you for. You're the expert. You tell me. And then they almost kind of get like defensive. They're like, I got a number in my head, but let's see what you come up with. Almost like it's a game. Let's see what you score. And it's like, it should never be a game. We're the same team. I'm on the same page with you. I am going to be your team captain, and we're going to get this deal done. The mission is to sell your house, but we got to be on the same team. So we got to have trust. And so when I'm on the phone with them, I word it differently, and I usually get an answer out of them 99% of the time. I ask them, in a perfect world, what are you hoping your home will sell for? We all can answer that in a perfect world, and lots of times they'll joke back and they'll be like, in a perfect world, I hope it will sell for 900,000, and then they'll chuckle. And so then at least they have a sense of humor. And then I, of course, usually say something witty back and laugh too, because when you have laughter involved in the conversation, it's way better, and things just flow better. So always ask those key points on the phone. Why are you moving? What is the goal? Are you staying in the area? And in a perfect world, what were you hoping your home will sell for? And then, of course, their favorite features of the home, and 1 to 10, how much is your home updated on a 1 to 10. Outside of those, once you're in their face, you're again reiterating the conversation that you had with them on the phone. So you said your goal was to get your home sold because you see the market is super busy right now and you feel like you can sell your home for over list price. And so you're wanting to capitalize on that. If that's the goal, boom, let's make it happen. That's a real clear strategy. And then I explain to them, typically, my job as your real estate agent is to show you, number one, what is the real market value of your home. Because as real estate agents, most of the homes on the market are your average homes. And in a normal market, they should be priced at market value. Now, take notes on this. In a different kind of market, there's different pricing strategies. So in a balanced market, in an average market, your goal to price it correctly is to price it at market value. Number one, always price it at market value. In a market like we're in right now, where there is no inventory, you can price it anywhere from 5 to 10% over market value, and it still should sell. Now, my thought process going 10% over, honestly, I never do that. I just don't believe in that strategy. Will I go 5% over? I will. I've even gone 8% over. I like a better strategy of pricing at market value or just slightly over market value, and then getting multiple offers, because when you get multiple offers in, it's a better situation for the seller by far, because that gives them leverage. They don't have to usually do any repairs. They can dictate the option period, they can dictate the option fee, they can dictate everything. But if you've only got one offer, you don't have any leverage. It's a pretty much negotiating thing. So you have to think of the strategy and you have to come up with what works best for you. This works best for our strategy, and this is how we do things here. Now, in a market where it's a full blown buyer's market and the market's saturated, you have to actually price the house 5 to 10% below market value to get offers in and to get it sold. So when you know how the market is and you know how it's projected and you know how the home is, that's how you price accordingly. So I go over this with the sellers. I explain to them market value. I show them on their I use a quick CMA and matrix. That's all I bring as far as numbers go, and the RPR report. And then on the last page of the matrix report, the CMA, quick CMA, I have my chicken scratch writing where I'll write their square footage of their home, and then I'll break down numbers. Here's where I think you should be. Here's where I like 7. So I'll be like, here's where I want to put you. Here's what I want to list it at. Here's likably the max, and here's your range. So I go over all of that, again, painting the picture so that by the time I'm done, we have a number in mind, and then it's a matter of here's your schedule. These are boom, 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 boom. You have to be able to establish that kind of stuff. So I was actually going to record a listing presentation of mine for you guys, but there's a guy that I know who has one, and it's very similar to mine. And so we're going to watch that real quick. So I'm going to put on this video. If you let me click over and find it for you guys. Let's see if we can get it. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. I'm hopeful. Walk through the plan on how we're going to work together to get that. If you can, let me see. Let me see on my phone. Hopefully y'all can see this. I'm going to pause it and see. Before we jump into it, bear with me because I've not done a Facebook Live and then tried to pull up a YouTube video. So I got to check it out and see if it's working correctly. Let's just see what's showing. Oh, let me go into our group. That would be helpful because I'm on my personal page. Bear with me. Okay. Now let me see if it's on. I want to understand kind of just so that I'm on the same page and it's clear. Not. You know, why are you guys okay. Like, so what I want you guys to do is I'm going to put a link. Let me pause this right now. I'm going to put a link. I'm actually going to share this video into our group. And I want you guys, let me see if I can pull it up in here. Let's just see. We're all learning this together. So for you guys that teach, learning, you can learn this right with me because I'm doing this live, as you see. And because I really love this guy. He's killing it in real estate. He's up north. I think he's in Minnesota or somewhere like that. He's awesome. He's a broker too. He has an independent brokerage, and they do a lot of business there. And his listing presentations are like spot on. And so I just shared this in our group. Let me see if I can go in there and grab it while I'm in here with y'all. Let's see. Probably not because I don't think so. So anyhow, we won't play the video. So I want you guys to watch it. So I've already explained to you like pretty much how my listing presentations go. I have some couple of notes here I want you guys to go over on a listing presentation. And you got to remember, like I said, I time block out 2 hours for my listing presentations. You guys should do the same. If it's like your normal average house and if it's a repeat client, I may only be in there an hour. If I get in and out of a listing presentation in an hour or less, that's a win because it's usually not. But in the first part of the listing presentation or when you're first talking to them, it's all about them. Always talking about them, what's their goal, what did they do to the house, those kinds of things. And then their second thing is like, what's next? When we sell your house, where do you want to go? You know, what and why? Why are you moving there? Is it to get closer to your grandkids? Is it for a new job? Is it because you're downsizing? Is it because you hate Texas? It's all why. Find out the why. So all about them is your first thing. Second is their why. The third thing you do is establish yourself as a market expert. And that's kind of like going over your presentation. For me, it's going over the numbers because like I said, I never really open the brochure and go through that with them. But I explain it to them after I've gone over the numbers. So once I've gone over the numbers with them, then the next thing, of course, is going through the timeline. For us, our listings are always shot and videoed on the same days every week. Our designers come at the same time. We have, like I said, we have a moving truck and a staging company. So for all of that stuff, it gets outlined right there at the listing presentation. And then when I'm done with that, I don't like paperwork, so I do things differently. A lot of people I know, a lot of my friends are like, oh no, I take the listing agreement with me and we sign it right there. And I don't, but you should. You definitely should. Don't model what I do there because I should. It's just me being completely an I and not liking paperwork and hating even to go over it. And so for me in my career, I'm like, I'm not going to do things that I don't enjoy doing. I don't enjoy the paperwork. And usually by the time I've left a listing appointment, I've established enough rapport with them and we're friends and we're laughing and we're on the same page. And you ask, does this look good to you? How does this sound to you? And you pretty much have established yourself as their expert. Why would they go anywhere else? And of course, I send a thank you text, handwritten note as soon as I get back to the office. And then, of course, everything goes over electronically for signatures. We just got to solidify the price and the timeline. That's usually all we have to solidify when I'm done. So with that, I hope you guys have taken notes on the strategy and how a listing presentation should go. Now watch the video that I uploaded, and watch it over and over, internalize it. And you don't have to do his script word for word. I do. I was actually going to pause his video at a couple of different places and explain how we do things a little bit differently and give you different options. But because I couldn't figure out how to watch it with y'all at the same time, I'll have to do that on another time. So make sure and watch that and save it to your saved videos, or always come back here to Realtors Road to Success. I'm Tricia Turner, and I hope you guys learned something today. Have a great day.